Incredible moments. Homeless woman discovers hidden connection after stray kitten begs for help. Marla crouched behind the worn-out dumpster, cold gnawing at her bones as she tucked her ragged coat tighter around herself. The air was laced with frost, a bitter reminder that winter had arrived, bringing with it an indifference that matched her own situation. Just days ago, she had been a beloved elementary school teacher, a beacon of hope for the children she nurtured. Now, she was a ghost in the same small Midwestern town, blending into the concrete corners and shadows, reduced to navigating a harsh reality that seemed to grow harsher with each passing hour. She yearned for the warmth of companionship, recalling the comfort she found in her childhood cat, Tigger, and the love they shared. Cracked pavement littered her daily path, memories of laughter and innocence fading under the weight of despair. Marla's heart pounded at the thought of approaching anyone. They saw a homeless woman, a stigma that clung to her like the cold. Every glimpse in the mirror was a haunting reminder of loss. Desperate for escape, she shifted her focus outward, breathing in the scent of the frigid air, when a faint mewing broke through her thoughts. Cautiously, she peeked behind the dumpster. There, shivering and forlorn, was a tiny tufted kitten, its wide eyes sparkling with fear and vulnerability. Marla's heart swelled as she reached out, gently scooping up the fragile creature. "You're not alone now, little one. I'll help you," she whispered, unable to suppress the swell of compassion aching in her chest. She named her Tilly, a fresh spark of life in the relentless gloom. As she nurtured Tilly with scraps she could scavenge, Marla felt an unfamiliar warmth, a faint glimmer of purpose. Each moment with the kitten filled the void looming like a dark cloud over her soul. But shadows still danced in the corners of her mind, reminding her of the family dinner tables that once filled with laughter, now draped in silence. Estrangement hurt worse than the bitter cold. What had come between them? The echoes of joyous holidays now replaced by whispers of resentment and forgotten connections tangled in regret. Then, an unexpected fortune descended like a soft snowfall when Dr. Johnson, the local veterinarian, found her cradling Tilly in the alley. He had seen kindness in her struggle, compassion rare in the harsh world surrounding them. "I could use some help at my clinic," he offered with genuine warmth. The invitation sent ripples of hope coursing through her. Could she reclaim her identity? Could she rebuild her life and find solace in the presence of her beloved Tilly? Yet, as she began this tentative journey back into the light, secrets of her family history emerged. Details blurred beneath the weight of time. Documents revealed links to a respected ancestor with both honor and scandal entwined in their story. Betrayal flashed brightly, stoking the fires of doubt, each revelation slicing deeper into her heart. Would confronting the truth bring solace or shift her footing in a world that had barely embraced her? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension coiled tightly within her. Each decision felt like walking a tightrope between preserving her hard-earned dignity and stepping into the legacy of a family she barely recognized. As Tilly turned to nuzzle against her, Marla found herself torn between varying desires. The longing for a family connection battled the fear of inherited expectations and responsibilities she couldn't embrace. In the depths of her anguish, a confrontation loomed as she considered whether to claim her rightful place among a past that held no place for her spirit. With Tilly's soft purring grounding her, Marla sensed the storm of decision brewing within. How would she reconcile the tangled threads of her history with a future still shrouded in uncertainty? As her mind whirled with questions, shadows loomed at the edge. The answers might awaken legacy or pain, and the choice was hers. Embody the strength of independence, or grapple with the weight of familial ties. Marla's resolve was like ice, unyielding beneath the weight of her dilemma. She envisioned herself standing at a crossroads, where the path leading back to her family's history beckoned with lure and trepidation. Though she had little time to ponder, the flicker of hope ignited by her bond with Tilly nudged her toward newfound purpose. Dr. Johnson's offer shimmered like a beacon, and as she considered it, she felt embers of her old identity stir within her. Amidst her thoughts, a gnawing anxiety nestled in her chest. What if stepping into the clinic, as daunting as it felt, came with its own set of expectations? Marla chastised herself for the hesitation creeping into her decision-making like an uninvited guest. Confronting her past was like grasping at smoke. She knew it was elusive, but she felt compelled to pursue it nonetheless. Tilly sealed the bond, anchoring her in the present. With a shaky breath, Marla tucked Tilly into her coat and made her way to the clinic, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm that resonated with every crack in the pavement beneath her worn shoes. Dr. Johnson was already there, arranging shelves filled with colorful jars of medicine and supplies. His demeanor was warm, a counterbalance to the chaos swirling in her mind. "Marla, I'm glad you came," he called, genuine relief washing over his face. "I need someone who knows how to comfort animals. You have a way with them." His words hung in the air, brimming with recognition. In those moments, Marla found herself reflected in his eyes. Not the specter of a neglected teacher, but a capable woman capable of making a difference again. With each task she completed in the clinic, she felt her confidence blossoming. Bathed in the warmth of caring for frightened animals, she felt chains begin to fall away. Slowly but steadily, her identity began to reshape itself. However, as the days passed, flashes from family memories seeped back, reminding her of the laughter and love once shared. Moments entangled with a history she couldn't ignore. That night, wrapped under the torn blanket that now served as both bed and protector, she combed through the old documents she had tucked away. There lay revelations intertwined with obligation, emotions desperately peeling apart at the seams. With Tilly curled close, Marla mulled over names of distant relatives she had never known. Individuals whose lives intertwined in corridors of success and scandal. Each name, each destiny, felt like a pebble in a pond, ripples skimming across her thoughts, conjuring questions about her own place in this family tapestry. She wrestled with the implications of their legacy, a chance for a fresh start shadowed by her own fears. As she examined the connections unfolding, a haunting truth gripped her. Family ties were like roots burrowing deep, complex, and often painful. The thought crossed her mind. If these were her ancestors, would their failures weigh on her shoulders? Would facing them be an act of strength or folly? Suddenly, the clinic brought a new challenge. Dr. Johnson mentioned a community event, where they would advocate for pet adoption and wellness. The invitation beckoned with familiarity, yet unceremoniously threw her into the spotlight, a place she had long avoided. As she lay in bed, emotions crashing like waves, Marla had to choose whether to embrace her past or continue running from it. Would she confront her family's legacy during the event? What if the truths unearthed branded her in ways she couldn't foresee? The night deepened, and beneath the blanket she felt Tilly's warmth, a reminder that new connections were often born from unexpected corners of life. Whatever awaited her, it was time to step forward and redefine who she was. Yet, that lingering doubt still gnawed at the edges of her resolve. She needed clarity. Tomorrow loomed large with possibilities, and as the shadows folded into the night, a quiet resolve started coalescing within her spirit. The time had come. It was time to face the truth, to piece together the fragments of her existence. Would she find the strength to reconcile her past while stepping boldly into her future? Only the dawning day would tell. The morning sun pierced through the thin curtains, illuminating Marla's modest room with a warm glow. She awoke, a curious mixture of excitement and trepidation bubbling within her. Today was the day she would step onto unfamiliar ground, a stark deviation from her withdrawn existence. Determined to embrace the unknown, she rolled out of bed, Tilly's purring vibrating against her chest as she scooped the kitten into her arms. Her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror revealed shadows of doubt beneath her eyes. Today wasn't merely about the clinic or the animals. It was about confronting her own legacy. With a practiced hand, she applied a dash of the blush she had stowed away, a small gesture reminiscent of who she once was, the confident woman who embraced the world. She inhaled deeply, summoning the strength within. As Marla arrived at the clinic, the familiar scent of antiseptic and animal fur enveloped her, grounding her thoughts. Dr. Johnson greeted her with an encouraging smile. "Are you ready for today? We'll be setting up in the park, and I want you to feel comfortable speaking. Remember, you're not alone in this." But who was she, really? Was she the Marla who buried herself under old documents, haunted by her family's shortcomings, or the woman who nurtured frightened puppies back to health? The dichotomy weighed heavily, and with every friendly comment exchanged in the clinic, she felt both supported and engulfed in uncertainty. As the morning wore on, Marla threw herself into her tasks. She organized supplies, engaged with pet owners, and gradually began to connect with the community members trickling in. Each interaction carved away at her self-doubt, creating small moments where she felt the shadows recede. Maybe, just maybe, this role could transform her self-image, an idea she held on to tightly. But the day's purpose pulled at her thoughts like an undertow. The moment to share her story was drawing closer, as the park's hustle and bustle played out in front of her like a theater piece ready to unfold. Dr. Johnson motioned to her, drawing her aside. "I want you to share about the importance of pet adoption and the love we can bring into these animals' lives," he encouraged, the seriousness in his tone palpable. Marla's stomach knotted. "What if I can't?" A calm smile broke on Dr. Johnson's face. "You can. Just speak from your heart. Remember, every one of these pets has a family story, much like you, and showing that connection can break the ice." His words rippled through her. The very essence of connection resonated. Her struggles mirrored those of the abandoned animals seeking warmth and love. Could she recount her journey without shying away from the shards of her broken past? Doubt rubbed shoulders with hope, and as she fought the urge to retreat, a spark ignited deep within her. Moments later, standing amid the vibrant colors of the park, with a crowd gathering, Marla felt reality crystallize into focus. The truth that her fears had been weighing upon her shifted to something lighter. She would not crumble under presumptive expectations. She would shape them into her advantage. Her heart raced as she slid into the impromptu role carved out for her, Tilly perched in her arms, a silent partner in this new and daunting endeavor. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and stepped forward. But just as she was about to speak, a familiar face flashed through the crowd, sparking a realization that sent her pulse racing with both apprehension and curiosity. It was someone from her past, someone who could unravel every bit of progress she had fought to reclaim. As her heart thumped heavily in her chest, uncertainty washed over her. Would confronting this figure derail her newfound path? This moment demanded attention, and as she searched the faces around her, she wondered whether she truly had the strength to face both the audience before her and the reminder of her history lurking nearby. Would she choose to embrace her voice and stand firm against her past? The answer remained dangerously suspended in the air as she prepared to speak. Marla's eyes darted through the crowd, sweeping past familiar faces and strangers alike, drawn inexorably back to the one person she had hoped never to encounter again. The sight of him, framed against the sweet relief of the afternoon sun, ignited a whirlwind of confusion within her. Her breath quickened as memories eddied around her, fragments of a past life, shadowed by hurt and regret. Dragging her gaze away from the man who had once embodied all her fears, she summoned a breath that felt weighted with gravity. She needed to focus, to assert control over the moment. She was determined not to let him derail her. This was not just about speaking for the animals, it was about reclaiming her narrative. She searched her own resolve, realizing she had given him too much power for far too long. A tiny nip from Tilly stirred her back to the present. The kitten wiggled, an innocent reminder of the warmth and love she now sought to spread. Marla adjusted her grip on the little creature, feeling the comforting weight of Tilly in her arms anchor her in reality. It was odd how companionship could solidify one's courage and clarity in times of uncertainty. Glancing around, she locked eyes with Dr. Johnson, who stood watching with a patient expression. He nodded slightly, as if encouraging her to find that inner strength he knew she possessed. Together, the two beings she had rescued, one from the street and the other from her past, spurred her to confront the fear that threatened to engulf her once more. Emboldened, she opened her mouth to speak. A stutter at first, followed by a solid foundation of words. "We gather here not just to find homes for these animals, but to understand their journeys and let them inspire ours," she began, energy threading through her voice, granting it weight. With each phrase, she felt her footing solidify. Her story, though still knotted with pain, was transforming into a narrative steeped in triumph. As she spoke, she offered glimpses into her upbringing, the painful withdrawal that had shaped her, and the duet of hope and struggle she had experienced in both her life and the life of stray animals. The crowd leaned in, fascinated by her transparent vulnerability, a raw honesty drawing them closer. Every gaze upon her bolstered her confidence. Marla wove together tales of the forgotten, how each furball was a vessel of emotion, each paw a step both forward and back in spirit. Her past, once a weight she would have cringed to reveal, began to feel like a bridge, one connecting her with the audience, a thread that could unite painful experiences into monumental transformations. Yet, in the very depths of her confidence, a shadow loomed. The figure in the crowd, skin deep in forgetfulness. The familiarity clung to him like an unshed tear, and with every word she uttered, the urge to retreat seemed at odds with her newfound resilience. And at that very moment, she noticed that he had taken a step closer. Anxiety surged, threatening to undo all that she had built up in the past few moments. The strength gathered sputtered, questioning whether her voice could withstand this unexpected confrontation. Would she break and allow this person to slip back into her life, undoing all her progress? Could she find a way to connect her past with the present without backpedaling into old narratives? The surge of uncertainty gripped her heart, your thoughts racing back and forth even as her speech continued to flow. "Every life we rescue brings us closer to understanding love and resilience," she stated with newfound emphasis. "And in rescuing them, we often discover ourselves." Marla's voice quivered slightly at the climax of her declaration, a deep resolve forming at the pit of her stomach. In that moment, she had a choice pushed to the forefront. Would she confront the man who represented her fears, or maintain the strength she had unearthed within? Her gaze faltered for just a moment, then snapped back to him as a wave of determination surged through her. The moment of truth hung tantalizingly in the air. Silence had enveloped the crowd, all while the dual battles raged, one against her past, and one within herself. As her heart beat in rhythm with the mounting tension, she questioned if she could seize this intersection of human vulnerability and strength. Would this be the moment she truly chose to rewrite her narrative, claiming both her story and the future ahead? Marla firmly fixed her gaze on the man who had once dictated the narrative of her life. She could no longer allow that to happen. The shadow of fear was still behind her, but it also felt like a shackle she was determined to break. Her heart raced, not from the dread that once gripped her, but rather with the thrill of possibility. In this moment, she was more than just a victim. She was an emerging force capable of changing her story. "Every life we rescue amplifies the understanding of love and resilience," she echoed her earlier words, now imbued with fervor. The crowd, still captivated, hung on to her every syllable. But the mere presence of him, of memories tied to regret, loomed large like a dark cloud threatening to rain on her moment of clarity. As he stepped almost imperceptibly closer, she felt the pull of that tidal wave of emotion, but something within her had shifted. The kitten in her arms squirmed, oblivious to the gravity of the situation, as though it were a small talisman of hope. Marla closed her eyes for a heartbeat, letting Tilly's warmth seep into her very core. This was her moment, a golden opportunity not just to speak for the voiceless, but to stake her claim over her life and decisions. With a deep inhale, she infused her voice with authority, grateful for the energy spilling out from the crowd. This journey, though challenging, is ours to explore. We can't change our pasts, but we can decide how they influence our future. The words flowed with the weight of truth, refusing to resign themselves to silence. Dr. Johnson shifted with admiration as Marla crafted her message. The moment crystallized. She was more than just a survivor. She was a storyteller, a catalyst for transformation right before the crowd's eyes. Vulnerability had never felt more potent. Let's embrace the pain, the joy, and the lessons learned from every creature we've crossed paths with. Our scars tell stories. She articulated her thoughts, now cupped gently in her palms, ready to be delivered like gifts to her audience. As the crowd began to nod, she recorded their expressions, each flicker of recognition edging her toward a final confrontation with that towering figure from her past. He seemed caught in her lingering gaze, poised on the brink of action. Perhaps he too understood his presence was part of the complex narrative they shared. In a split-second decision, she stepped forward, leaving the podium behind. The crowd gasped at her movement, but there were no brakes on the train of her resolve. It was full steam ahead. This was her moment to reclaim not only her voice, but to challenge the past incarnate standing merely feet away. "Why are you here?" she demanded, her voice steady, each word laced with the strength she had summoned. All eyes darted between them, the charged silence amplifying her question. In the depths of her being, reality twisted into a taut string, ready to snap. The audience witnessed not just a confrontation, but an evolution. What responded next from the man, and how it intertwined with her newfound strength, held the answers to questions she had wrestled with in the shadows of her mind. As the seconds stretched into what's promised to be a revelation, Marla braced herself. Would this confrontation anchor her in her truth? Or would it unleash a different tide altogether? The air hung thick with anticipation, a palpable tension binding Marla to the man whose shadow loomed over her past. Every heartbeat reverberated with the weight of uncertainty. As they locked eyes, she searched for the remnants of the boy she had once known beneath the layers of the man standing before her. His expression was unreadable, an unsettling blend of regret and defiance. He opened his mouth, but the words that emerged were not what she expected. "I didn't think you'd speak out," he said, the tremor in his voice betraying a vulnerability that momentarily surprised her. Graceful composure met her inner tempest, and she wondered if he sensed the tidal wave of resolve building within her. "Why would I stay silent? That's the only thing you'd understand," she retorted, her voice unwavering despite the quaking in her chest. She grasped the kitten tighter, feeling its fragile life against her. It became a reminder of her newfound purpose, a living embodiment of her commitment to protect those vulnerable, like she had once been. He seemed taken aback, perhaps not anticipating a challenge from her. "I didn't come to argue, Marla. I'm here to make amends." His eyes flickered with something. Was it hope or desperation? Was he finally confronting the consequences he had long evaded? Marla's mind raced. Amendments felt inconsequential now, mere words echoing in a space filled with memories too heavy to overlook. She had spent years scrutinizing the fractures of their past, dissecting her experiences with the precision of a surgeon, analyzing how each slice had shaped her. "You think an apology can undo the harm you caused?" she shot back, refusing to let the flicker of concern in his eyes alter her course. "Maybe not undo," he admitted carefully. "But I want to understand what I did. I have spent years grappling with it." His admission momentarily derailed her, saturating the atmosphere with an unexpected vulnerability. Did she want to hear him out? Could she afford to learn his truth? The mental conflict knotted tighter within her, but she felt the familiar burn of determination. This was not about him. It was about her reclamation of self. Yet, a voice within her whispered of unresolved grief and lingering questions. "Understanding is a starting point," she said slowly, weighing each syllable. "But you need to realize that my journey doesn't have to cross with yours. I'm not here to bring you peace." The crowd became the silent witnesses to this emotional battlefield, their anticipation thickening the air around her like fog. She could sense Dr. Johnson's steady gaze behind her, an anchor silently encouraging her to withstand the storm before her. He stepped closer, desperation bleeding into his tone. "What do you want, Marla?" "I'm here to listen." This is where her power lay, resting beneath layers of fear and defiance. She took a breath, centering herself, feeling the warmth of Tilly's tiny body remind her how far she had come in caring for those who needed protection. "I want to be the author of my own narrative," she declared firmly, her voice echoing through the charged silence with renewed vigor. "And I won't share that pen with you." The moment hung between them, charged with adrenaline and expectation. She sensed the crowd aligning silently behind her, thousands of stories collectively lifting her as she stood resolute. Her heart hammered with both fear and liberation. This confrontation was a wrestling match not just with him, but with every doubt she had ever harbored. Behind her resolve lay a question she had considered as she'd bravely taken this leap. Could this pivotal moment be the key that unlocked a deeper understanding of her own resilience? And then, something shifted again in his expression. A flicker of the boy she had known, but also a man quietly struggling for closure. In this tide-swirl of realization, she couldn't help but wonder how it would all unfold. Would the struggle change her, or would she emerge stronger than before? The air vibrated with unanswered questions as the world around them held its breath. She knew that whatever happened next might alter the shape of her identity permanently. Marla gripped the kitten tighter, feeling the weight of potential filling her. How would he respond next? Would this encounter cement her strength, or plunge her deeper into the labyrinth of her past? The answers lay just beyond the precipice, waiting to be unraveled. Marla felt a shiver tremble down her spine as his words hung heavy in the air, each syllable a swing of the pendulum between the life she had built and the ghosts of her past. He took a deep breath, preparing to respond. But for her, the fleeting moment of anticipation turned into a revelation. She never anticipated standing here, a warrior forged from pain but still questioning what it meant to be liberated from it. Before her stood the embodiment of her past, challenging her self-definition with every gentle word and pained expression. "Listen, I know I can't fix everything," he finally said, voice trembling. "But I can help. I can find ways to show you that I've changed, that I'm not that boy anymore." Marla's heart raced. The flicker of hope momentarily crashed headfirst into her caution. Insight surged within her, rising with the urgency of a tide. She felt a profound urge to unearth something more, what lay beneath the surface of his plea. But could she engage with the frail threads of compassion without collapsing into the weight of memory? "Show me?" she scoffed, but with a tone of restrained curiosity. "Do you really think it's that simple? You vanished when I needed you the most. Why should I believe you now?" His eyes widened, absorbing each word as if they were blows he had long avoided. Marla's indignation was more than anger. It was the shield of a survivor, the armor of someone who wouldn't allow herself to be vulnerable again, not easily. And yet, there was an unsettling resonance in his voice, an echo of sincerity that pulled her closer to the edge of understanding. Here lay a puzzle with pieces she felt compelled to examine. "Because I've spent years reflecting, and I want to contribute in a different way," he replied, a hint of urgency threading through his tone. "I volunteer at a shelter. I help those like you, those in vulnerable situations. Maybe you could see it for yourself. You could see the change." The proposition shook her. His past clashed against the potential for reconstruction. A part of her bristled at the thought of being lured into his journey for redemption. Yet, another part was intrigued, a seed of curiosity germinating amidst the scrutiny of her own scars. Was this an invitation to not just evaluate him, but to reflect on her own journey? Holding the kitten, remembering her purpose, a flicker of resolve sparked. "If I do this, it won't be for you," she asserted, the conviction ringing through her words. "It will be for me, to see if I can believe in the possibility of change. For those who need advocates, not saviors." His gaze softened, and she sensed the shift in him, recognition of a different kind of vulnerability. One born not from his past actions, but from potential connection. This was both exhilarating and terrifying. Could she allow this tension between them to usher her toward self-discovery without losing sight of her newfound independence? With questions brimming like storms in her heart, Marla made a decision. "I'll visit this shelter," she announced, feeling the air thrum with the gravity of commitment. "But consider this a trial. If you think this is a journey for you to seek forgiveness, you'll be disappointed. I'm here to protect what's mine. That means my narrative, my choices, and the people I serve." A glimmer danced in his eyes, an acknowledgement of her strength, or perhaps a flicker of fear she had forged in the name of survival. As she turned away a step, allowing a sliver of distance to draft between them, the weight of the moment settled with painful finality. It wasn't merely a step toward a shared space. It was a crossroads laden with untold possibilities. What could she discover about her own healing in the face of his evolving narrative? The air crackled as uncertainty lingered. Each decision, each opportunity stirred in a way that demanded growth. If she faced him, she would also confront the reflections of her experiences. Marla grasped the kitten once more, feeling its heart pulsate against hers, signifying not just fragility, but the potential for fierceness. Would embarking on this journey of dual discovery illuminate parts of herself long concealed? The time had come to explore uncharted waters between them, and Marla was ready to dive in, regardless of the depths or darkness that lay ahead. But lingering questions haunted her. How much could she uncover about herself in confronting the remnants of her former life? And when the dust settled, who would she emerge as, forged in the fires of memory and possibility? As Marla stepped away, the weight of her commitment filled her chest, both exhilarating and disquieting. The prospect of visiting the shelter felt like standing on taut ropes, strung over an unfathomable abyss. With each step away from him, she felt a jolt of anticipation mingling with doubt. What if she opened a door to a past better left untouched? Yet, the thought that lingered was almost magnetic. Wasn't it equally as daunting to not engage with the opportunities laid bare before her? That evening, she found herself lost in preparation, her mind racing as she set out her clothes for the next day. A simple outfit, functional, yet an uncharacteristic choice. The woman she had become shunned vulnerability, but this act felt like a silent acknowledgement of the journey ahead. She would walk into that shelter, not as a victim but as an advocate, a reluctant participant willing to explore the shades of compassion she had carefully guarded. As night descended, her thoughts spiraled in unexpected directions. Would she be able to embody the strength she had cultivated, or would her past efforts to rise above repeat themselves, drawing her into the very chaos she sought to escape? Marla gripped the kitten, cradling it close. Its gentle purring was a reminder of resilience, a promise of life navigating through turbulence. The next morning arrived, draped in an almost surreal tranquility. She approached the shelter, heart pounding, echoing against the heavy silence of early hours. The building stood like a fortress against the world, weary and weathered but brimming with potential. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. The surroundings bore an energy, the rustle of hope mixed with heartache. It tugged at her, causing her to question whether she was equipped to bear witness. Sitting in the common room full of mismatched chairs and aging posters, she absorbed the transient faces around her. Each person told stories etched in weary expressions, struggles that whispered echoes of her own. Her intention to advocate morphed into an introspective search as she witnessed others navigating paths similar to her own, even if they diverged wildly. Marla felt a cascade of emotions unfold, sympathy rapidly entwined with an uncomfortable mirroring of her own repressed histories. A volunteer named Lucy approached her, warm and inviting, like a light slicing through the fog of apprehension. "Welcome. It can feel overwhelming at first," Lucy offered, her smile genuine. "But you're not alone. Every person here has a story that matters." Marla nodded, though the ache of her past curled in the corners of her mind. Each word ignited a flicker of reluctance. Did her story matter? Was she prepared to share it with others who bore similar scars? As they moved through the day, Marla watched Lucy interact effortlessly with those in need. Each kind word and gentle touch drew in the room, a tapestry woven with compassion and connection. With every smile Lucy exchanged, Marla felt her own walls beginning to tremble. Perhaps the realization of her scars was an avenue to healing rather than a hindrance. Perhaps reframing her narrative could carve a new path forward. When evening rolled in, the warmth of the day shifted into colder undertones. It was then that Lucy invited Marla to share her own story in an impromptu gathering of volunteers and the shelter's guests. Everyone's gaze shifted toward her. In that charged silence, Marla hesitated. Did she truly want to expose herself this way? But beneath the weight of her reluctance loomed a profound urgency. A desire not only for her past to be validated, but for her present to gain significance in the eyes of others. Could she do it? Did she have the strength to confront the echoes of her history? The moment felt charged, a critical moment demanding an answer. And just like that, the gentle nudging of her heart, contrasted against the cold barriers of her mind. Marla stood, uncertain but compelled toward the edge of vulnerability. The air thickened, and she drew a deep breath, ready to confront the shadows within her, illuminated by the fragile light of shared experience. But amidst her swirling resolve, an unexpected voice arose from behind her. "Before you speak, Marla, there's something I need to tell you." As her heart raced, a wave of apprehension washed over her. What revelation lay at her back, waiting to shape the course of her narrative with every word? Marla froze, the weight of uncertainty anchoring her to the spot. The voice, steady yet laced with urgency, came from a man whose features she could just make out in the dim light of the common room. She turned slowly, her heart pounding louder in her ears, drowning out the voices around her. "I'm sorry, but you really need to hear this," he continued, stepping forward. His expression held a mix of kindness and concern that was completely disarming. "I know how you feel. I've been where you are right now." Marla blinked, caught off guard. The empty room filled with his bold statement, a broken confession that pulled her back into her own memories. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I spent years trapped in the cycle of despair, haunted by my past. I didn't think I could ever be more than what I was," he said softly, his dark eyes searching hers. "Then I found someone who had the courage to share their story. Hearing their truth set me on a path to reclaim my voice." His words struck Marla like lightning, igniting a recognition in her spirit. She had stumbled into this shelter seeking to lend strength to others, yet here was a reflection of her own fears, the devastating weight of silence. The man stepped closer, vulnerability spilling from him as openly as his strength. "It's the stories we tell ourselves that confine us, but they can also free us if we're brave enough to share them." As he spoke, Marla's conflicting urges intensified. While fear clawed at her insides, an undeniable stirring began to soften the jagged edges of her insecurity. What if embracing her truth could break not only her chains, but inspire someone else, just as this man had been inspired? She thought of Lucy, of the other shelter guests, their need for connection echoing her own. "What if—" "I don't know how to start," she managed to ask, her hands trembling at her sides. "Start with what you feel," he encouraged, a gentle smile breaking across his face. "Your pain, your journey, it matters. Find the thread and pull it. The truth is, we all need to know we're not alone." Marla's eyes went to the floor, focusing on a loose thread of her own shoes, the simplicity of his advice rolling over her like waves against a shore. She had practiced words of strength in her mind, painted them into a picture of resilience. Yet in this moment, what really stood out was the power of humility, of humanity, of sharing fragmented truths. As she stood there, the room faded away, and all that existed were shards of her past intertwined with the quiet strength emerging within. If she let herself dismantle those barriers, would she find reconstruction in the sharing, in raw honesty? It was terrifying, yet exhilarating. "Will you share?" the man prompted, like a midwife urging an innocent life into the world. "Yes," she breathed out, the resolve washing over her decisively, drowning out fear. It felt terrifying, like stepping out into a storm. But there was something oddly reassuring in that acknowledgement, a rush of clarity. "Before you do," he said, cutting through her momentum once more, "there's one last thing you should know. Your story. It doesn't just echo in this room. It might touch lives beyond these walls." Her heart raced. What did he mean by that? She didn't understand how her past could be anything beyond private battles. Amid her internal storm, clarity flashed. Just then, a soft meow broke the silence, a sweet moment that punctuated her resolve. The kitten curled tighter against her neck as she tightened her grip around it, seeking comfort in its fragile form. The realization struck her again. Compassion was a two-way street, and Marla, once lost in her own fragmented history, now held the power to forge a connection, an authentic thread to weave into the greater tapestry of courage and hope. As she took a deep breath, a decision sparked within her. She would speak. She would share. But then a cool breeze swept into the room as the door swung ajar. revealing a newcomer with a familiar, unsettling aura that froze Marla's breath. "Marla, there you are," the figure called out, with a sinister familiarity that ignited a fear she thought she had buried long ago. Her heart raced anew, caught between the urge to step forward into discovery or to retreat into the shadows of her past. Marla's breath caught in her throat, her eyes widening as she recognized the voice that seeped into the space like bitter winter air. It was him, the specter of her past, stepping through the door as if summoned by her unvoiced fears. In that instant, the security of her newfound courage swayed, unsure of its footing against the tempest of memories he brought with him. "Why are you here?" she managed, the words escaping her lips with an authority she didn't fully feel, but needed to assert. The room shifted, collective gazes darting between them, spotlighting her confrontation, as if it were the climax of a long-awaited play. "Marla, please," he began, his voice trembling with a confluence of emotions. "I just want to talk. I want to understand." "Understand what? The pain left behind in the wreckage of our shared history? Or the choices you made that pushed us apart?" Her voice rang out, clear and unwavering, fueled by the strength she had found among the stories of those in the shelter, those who had faced their own daunting truths. The room remained postured, a living tableau of tensions and stillness. In that vulnerable space, Marla recognized a fundamental truth. She was not merely a canvas for someone else's brushstrokes of shame. She was not defined by their narratives. "I know I don't deserve it, but if you could just give me a moment," he implored, an ache lacing his words. Marla took a steadying breath, the warmth of Tilly grounding her. What she felt in those moments didn't require resolution with him. It needed clarity for herself. "You're right. You don't deserve it." A silence enveloped them, an impenetrable barrier filled with unsaid words and waiting hearts. Yet within that silence, Marla allowed her emotions to settle, transforming her initial panic into a moment of disciplined focus. While she focused on him, the shelter and the resonant faces around her spoke volumes. They mirrored her struggles, and she couldn't let this moment slip away. If there was one lesson she had learned from this journey, it was that vulnerability had its own form of power, a chance to rewrite the script. Taking a step back from him, she turned her attention to the audience, to the strangers who now felt like companions walking alongside her. In that collective gaze, she found her anchor. "I'm here to tell you my story, to reclaim the pieces that were lost," she said steadily. Her voice rang out with bravery, commitment radiating from her core. "Everyone has shadows. Some are born from our choices, others thrust upon us. In this moment, I choose to rise, not run. I am not just the girl shackled by my past. I am a woman forging a new path." Each word flowed more freely than the one before, her narrative intertwining with the collective heartbeat of the shelter. There was empowerment in her honesty, including her painful history with him. But more importantly, she was owning her truth. "I was once suffocated by silence. I let fear define me. But today I stand alongside those who need advocates, not saviors. I embrace the power of connection because it is through connection that we heal." As she spoke, she saw their nods, their shared understanding resonating like a chorus of validation. Each flicker of acknowledgement propelled her further into the light she had only begun to claim. Dr. Johnson's expressive face encouraged her. Lucy's steadfastness supported her, the stories in the room intertwined with her own. Marla no longer sought permission to reclaim her identity. The future unfurled before her like a tapestry waiting for her to weave her story into its fabric. "I learned that our scars can connect us profoundly," she continued, her pulse steadying with each heartbeat. "Through these connections, we can become beacons of hope rather than mere reminders of despair." As she closed the gap against the man who had once loomed large over her life, she felt the hold he had on her begin to hemorrhage. She reaffirmed her position, standing tall against the whispers of insecurity and doubt. "I am not here to become a part of your narrative. I am not your past. I am my own, and I will become who I was meant to be." In that moment, the rush of clarity engulfing her felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. The warmth surged, filling the cracks in her foundation, reminding her that she was not merely surviving, she was evolving. The man stared, his expression shifting from defiance to recognition. Marla sensed that he understood, perhaps for the first time, that this was not about absolution for him, but liberation for her. Each painful memory, every tear shed, had forged a resilient spirit. A woman unwilling to let her past dictate her future. As she stepped back from him, she turned to the crowd who had borne witness. "Let us embrace each other's journeys," she urged. "Let our stories be threads in this intricate tapestry of life. We have the power to rise from ashes, to reclaim our narratives, and shape our futures." The room erupted in spontaneous applause, a raw, resonant testament to her courage igniting within them. In that moment of shared celebration, Marla felt the constraints of her past loosen around her, the chains of shame, regret, and hostage memories falling away. In the end, it was not the encounter with the figure from her past that defined her. It was her unwavering commitment to claim her own story, to advocate for herself and others, and to recognize that every life shared an essence of collective resilience. She emerged not as a figure swallowed by shadows, but as a luminous force, a teacher once more, but now to herself first. Marla breathed in deeply, feeling the swell of possibilities. She was exactly where she needed to be, in the embrace of her truth, amongst the stories of resilience, ready to forge paths anew with Tilly purring steadfast against her heart. Now was the moment for action. If you found yourself moved by Marla's journey of transformation, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support really makes a difference.